that was an absolute thriller. Skill, heart, engine. So pleased for Joe Cordina and also Tony Sims. These two have made a lot of sacrifices. Great team, and as far as I'm concerned, that cements Joe Cordina as the best 130-pound fighter in the world. And over to the floor for questions.
How's the hand, Joe?
Yeah, it's fine. Just a bruised knuckle, that's all. Every time I hit him, he got a hard head, but every time I hit him, I could feel the bruise just swelling and swelling and swelling. But yeah, the injury that I had is fine.
You felt confident from the fight?
Yeah, listen, don't get me wrong, it was a tough fight, and I'm not going to sit here and say it was an easy fight or anything. It just showed you were all there watching, so it was definitely a tough fight. But there wasn't a time in there apart from there was 2 rounds. He hit me with a body shot, one of them. Then there was one with a head shot. Other than them 2 rounds, I felt comfortable in it.
Amazing introduction.
Thank you.
Was it your hardest fight?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I knew it was going to be my hardest fight. But I was prepared, like I've said previously in the ring. Tony grafted me through this camp, and literally it was grueling. And I had to ask myself a few questions. I answered them, and what I did in camp set me up nicely for tonight.
You surprised that it went to split decision, considering your reaction? You didn't look like a fighter before you won at the end of it.
Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't. Well, the one who had this 116, 111 was it? Yeah, I don't know what he was smoking, but yeah, I didn't know where he got that from.
I think he actually gave the last 5 rounds to Rakhimov.
Yeah, which was a joke.
Not what?
9 rounds.
Yeah, but the last 5 or so. I mean, the 10th round was one of Joe's best rounds. I mean, battered him.
Yeah, that was a joke, and but yeah, I felt comfortable in there. When he was getting close up, and don't get me wrong, he was working to the body. A lot of it was going on the arms, on the gloves, and I was keeping my shots in close in, and I felt comfortable in there. And I could have gone another 3-4 rounds. I felt fit, felt comfortable, and I've said it previously. There's no gym in the UK that trains harder than us.
Did you feel like the crowd matched last June, because that was such a special night, and tonight wasn't?
Yeah, they showed up tonight, and it was a special moment. I said to people before, whatever I do in my career will never match what I did last June. But that do come close. This do come close. The crowd was amazing. I appreciate everyone for coming out and showing up. And yeah, we look to do it again in the future.
Boxing is a sport. Basically, you have to dedicate your life to it. Do you feel like you kind of got your life back because you're back where you were?
Yeah, I sacrificed a lot, as I've said before in interviews. I live away from home. I got 3 young children that I miss dearly when I'm away. But everything I do in camp and in boxing is for them in the future. My wife stays at home, looks after my kids, and I see them. This camp I was away for 16 weeks. Not all in all, but I came back for around about 12, 14 days in that 16 weeks. So yeah, for me it is hard being away, and the sacrifices pay off, and as it showed tonight.
And hopefully it won't be another couple of years until we see you coming back to Cardiff now. Has Joe started something, do you think? Yeah,
I mean, we said the other night, didn't we? It really was your only chance to keep boxing alive in Wales at that level. And you saw tonight, I mean, that atmosphere is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And it's just 4,500 here, whatever it is, completely banged out. And now it's the next step.
It was 5,001.
Yeah, I mean,
I know I get
a
few
bonus.
more quid.
Listen, if there was a bonus at
He's trying to
5,000,
fill
trust
now.
me, it was definitely 4.5. But I think it's like it's time to move on. And now we move on to the bigger leagues and bigger stadiums and bigger arenas and bigger fights. I think after the Agao victory and after that fight, you've never seen 2 victories where a fighter has dethroned a world champion consecutively in that kind of fashion, with a knockout and with a fight of the year contender. So, and Joe's kind of doing things now that probably early in his career, you may not have thought that he would have done, having a war over 12 rounds with one of the strongest fighters, out there, or a one-punch knockout. So he's got everything in the game. He's a very talented fighter, and now we've really got to make it count. That's the key, is to make it count for him and his family, make those sacrifices all worthwhile. He's done that from a legacy point of view. Now we do it from a big fight point of view and a financial point of view as well, and time to enjoy the benefits of the hard work.
Next, or
I think in terms of a voluntary, that's a big fight. But obviously, Joe as well wants unifications, and I think he's the best super featherweight in the world. I really do. And I think now there's attainable unification fights out there. Before it was just all about Shavkat Stevenson. And you know, you may end up see Joe going up to 130 one day. You know, you've got other British featherweights, Josh Warrington, Lee Wood. I don't know, they might, Maurizio Lara, they might be moving to 130 eventually. Joe's got a nice plan for 4, 5, 6 fights, big fights, but he wants those belts. You know, I'd love to see him try and have a crack at Undisputed one day as well.
Yeah, I set goals, and in my career, from when I started, the first thing I did when I started boxing, I wanted to win a Welsh title, then a British title, then Europeans, worlds, all that shit, and then Olympic Games was my ultimate goal as an amateur. Then once that was gone, it was all I wanted to do as a pro was be a world champion. I wasn't interested in any other belt, no British, no Commonwealth, nothing. It was all about a world title. I've ticked that off. Then when I won the world title last year, it was time to unify. That's what I wanted to do. They were my goals. Obviously, I was stripped. So the first thing I needed to do to reach them goals is get my title back. I've done that tonight, and now I want to reach them goals.
You feel obviously you got to show your power against the Gower. Was tonight the night you got to show? Often talk about your boxing IQ. Was tonight a good night to show that?
Yeah, no. Tonight, I've said it all the time. I can fight going forward. I can fight going backwards. I can do everything. I'm not a finished article by any means, and I'm not perfect, but I can do everything, and I can do everything well. And I stood toe to toe with arguably a monster tonight, and I pushed him back, and I felt I was hurting him a lot of times in that fight. So, yeah, don't get me wrong. It wasn't easy. It was hard. It was tough, but I showed that I can fight. I've showed previously I can box. I can fight going forward, I can fight going backwards. And if I have to dig in, I will.
Also showed tonight you can take a very, very big shot.
Oh, yeah.
Clean.
Yeah. I spar with Conor Ben in the past. I don't spar him now, he's a big boy. But and I've moved down a weight, so yeah. But I've sparred with Conor Ben, and he hit me with some big shots. I take him, and I move forward. So he's not gonna. Yeah, don't get me wrong. With little 8-ounce gloves, it do give you a little buzz, but like I said, we're the hardest working gym in the country, and I recover very fast because I'm fit. Tony puts us through graft and make sure we're in peak condition. So yeah, there was no way I was going down. There was no way I was packing it in. Yeah, I soldiered it out.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Joe, how would you rate out of 10?
I don't know. I'd have to watch it back. When you're in there, it's like I'm in there throwing shots, taking digs. I'm going back after every corner. How did I do there, Tom? How did I do? So yeah, it's hard to gauge. But I'd have to watch it back to sort of rate it out of 10.
I thought I had him winning by 3 rounds. He was a tough fight. I think the knockdown was big because it was a 10-8 round. You know, Rakhimov was throwing a lot of shots, but a lot of them was hitting elbows and gloves, and the shots that Joe was throwing was catching him clean, and he was hurting him as well. But you know, it was an hard fight. We always knew it was going to be an hard fight. And if you watch all of his fights, he drew with Jojo Diaz as his high-class world operator, and we always knew that was going to be tough. But you know, I had Joe winning by at least 3 rounds in that fight.
Eddie, which fight is easiest to make?
I mean, I always like WBC Championship. Shaquille Foster's a good fighter, getting on, but a good fighter. Other opportunities as well. Honestly, any of the champions, and I feel like there's no marquee champions other than Joe. I honestly think he's the biggest name in the division right now. And you know, like I said, when he first won the title against Agawa, we were talking about the big undisputed fight with Shavkat Stevenson, but the goal is still the same. He's not there anymore. But you know, when you're talking about, as long as Cardiff and Wales continue to support him like that and can help us move to the next level, which is the stadium, you can bring over those champions no problem. The zone will be ready to invest in those unification fights. They've already been on the phone tonight. They're in Vegas just saying, wow, what a fight, you know, and that's such a brilliant way for the boxing fans to move into Tank against Ryan Garcia tonight, is to see a brilliant world-class fight like that, and the audience would be huge tonight. So, you know, it's any of those guys. I do like the Shaquille Foster fight, but any champion. And as long as, like I said, as long as Cardiff, don't rule out a trip to America. I think Joe would one day, I think, you know, fighting in New York or Vegas, and I think he'd take 4,000 or 5,000 or more over them himself. So that's a one for the bucket list as well. But I'd love to bring the champions here if we can.
In terms of activity, obviously he's been injured.
Yeah.
Now for a long time. When would you see that?
Well, I think if we're going to go outdoors, we need to do it certainly by the end of September at the latest. So everything depends on the hand. I'd like to see him make up for lost time. It's had a long camp, very long camp, tough camp. But really, if we want to make it count, see, the problem is we can't bring unification fights to this arena. You're not generating the money to bring the champions here. So we must go to the stadium. So to do that, we need to do it at the latest in September. I think September's is a real possibility. Obviously, you've got football season as well. It's different at Cardiff City, you know, versus the Millennium Stadium, which is a monster but can be curtained off in places and stuff like that. But look, he's in a great position.
There's a few stadiums. You got the Arms Park also, which is next to the Millennium, which is a good venue if City Stadium the football season is on. But yeah, there's a few good arenas and stadiums around.
This is a great arena, by the way, but we've outgrown it now. So
yeah,
it's time to find somewhere else in Wales.
Joe, on the theme of bucket list items, talk me through that entrance. Was it everything you wanted it to be?
Yeah, it was mad. Yeah, it was special moment for Welsh sports. Obviously, David's always there for the football, and to see him perform at a boxing event is amazing. And what better to do it than my world title fight? So yeah, it was great to have him there.
I don't know how much of the rest of the show you're able to absorb tonight, but you're a real flag bearer for Welsh boxing, and you've made a point of wanting to bring others with you, you know, and open a door for them. What's your message to the other fighters behind you now?
Yeah, listen, I've always said this. Some people stay in a comfort zone. I knew for me to step up to that next level, I needed to be out of my comfort zone. And for me to move to that next level, it was with Tony Sims. The first gym I went to, trained outside of Wales, was Tony. My dad said to me, "This is the man you need to be with." And advice-wise, I take a lot of my dad. And for me, working with Tony, we gelled straight away. He didn't let me punch a bag or a pad for like 3 or 4 sessions. So, and he said to me a couple of weeks back, "You see every mistake when you're shadow boxing." And that's what my dad seen when I first went there. And he was like, "This is the guy you need to be with." And he's took me from being a back foot counter puncher with my chin in the air all the time to a world champion, a 2-time world champion. So a lot of credit goes to Tony Sims. He's up 6 in the morning in the gym with his one-to-ones. Then we come in at 7. He's there from 7 o'clock, and sometimes don't leave till like 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. So a lot of the credit goes to this man next to me.
I'm sure you weren't looking past tonight, but what do you do in rest and recovery now?
I'm going to go back, have a shower, and then I've got an after party in Mocha. So I'd like to see everyone there. I was looking to go to Dubai on Wednesday. I'm going to play golf on Monday, golf on Tuesday, fly to Dubai on Wednesday, but no one's there to have my kids. So I'm going to play golf Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, have Saturday off, play Sunday, and then I'm going to watch John Ryder in Mexico against Canelo the week after. Thank you.
Just a question for you. What does it feel like to see your fighter win the belt back? It was taken away from him suddenly, kind of abruptly. And for him to go back and win it in such a devastating fashion, what does that mean to you? Like I said, a lot of the credit goes to you. You're the one that's there at 6 a.m. in the morning and the last one to leave. What does it mean to you?
It means the world to me, and like, I know how much sacrifice Joe's made, like leaving his own and, you know, coming down to Essex for months at a time. And he's a really hard worker and he's easy to work with. And, you know, I know how much it means to Joe and his family. It means everything, you know. Like Eddie said before, you know, winning world titles changes your life. And Joe's managed to win 2 world titles off of 2 world champions. And, you know, tonight was an hard fight, but he dug in deep and he got through it, and you know, he's a 2-time world champion.
You talk about it being a hard fight. There's moments in there where I thought, you know, he's really getting into a trade up here, toe to toe. There was no room for like stepping back, maybe leading off the jab. How does it feel to watch your fighter going in toe to toe? Is that confident that he can go into sitting on the edge of the seat thinking this could go either way at points?
I think we knew through camp that it would have to be that type of fight because Rakhimov doesn't give you any room. You know, he throws the jab and moves in his feet behind it. He just bores in, head down, bores you into the ropes. He don't give you a lot of room. So Joe's a good inside fighter as well as distant fighter, and he's learned over the years to fight inside. And I thought his counter punching was on point. And like people don't know, but Joe's really, really game. Like he said, I've had him in with a lot heavier fighters than him, world level fighters, and I've seen him get hit. So I know that I know what he's got in his locker, and you know, and he had to produce that tonight. He had to produce that sort of performance to win tonight, and he did.
Joe, those angles that you found were absolutely beautiful. The way that you picked it up, moved out of the way, circled it, making him look silly at times. What kind of message is that sending out to other fighters in your weight division that you can really challenge in the future?
I don't know. Styles make fights, so for me, it's like that works for him. It don't necessarily work for the other fighters. So yeah, it might send a message. They might take it as that, but they might say, oh yeah, that wouldn't work with me. So yeah, we worked on that though for Rakhimov because he comes forward, he's over his front foot, his hands around his head. So just cut around him, but at times there was times where he was starting to get onto it. But yeah, even when I was moving off to the side and just creating that little gap, and like Tony said there, we knew sometimes like we're gonna have to stand there and take a couple and let him go counter off what he throws. But yeah, as we've seen in this Alpha Barra fight, if you constantly moving, he's just gonna close the gap. Wait for you to stop punching. When you want to rest, he's going to throw. So you're doubling. You're going to lose your energy, your breath, your stamina, and you're going to drain. And he's going to drain the tank. So for me, sometimes it's better to just catch, counter, and then slowly move away instead of rushing around. So yeah, we knew it was going to be that sort of fight at times, and sometimes. And I say that I love a little tear up. I actually do enjoy it, and I enjoyed tonight.
Thank you. So every performance
Thank you.
definitely